Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. I don't scare easily. I grew up in Montana. My dad believed a boy should know how to build a fire in the rain and how to tell the difference between wind in the trees and something heavier moving through brush. Every summer, he took me deep into Glacier National Park. No cell service, no trails sometimes, just maps, instinct, and miles of silence. Bears never bothered me. Mountain lions didn't either. Even the isolation felt honest. But what happened last September didn't feel honest. There were 4 of us on that trip. Me, my girlfriend Haley, my best friend Mark, and his cousin Dylan. We hiked about 6 miles and past the popular trails to a small alpine lake that barely showed up on maps. The water was clear as glass. Pine trees wrapped around it like dark walls. No other campers. No ranger stations. Just us and that big Montana sky. The first night was perfect. Cold air, bright stars, a clean kind of quiet that makes you feel small in a good way. The second night changed something. We were sitting around the fire, passing a cheap bottle of whiskey. The flames were low, glowing orange against the black trees. We were laughing about old stories when Haley stopped mid-sentence. "Did one of you move that?" Her voice wasn't joking. We followed her eyes. There were 5 chairs around the fire. We only brought 4. For a second, nobody spoke. It didn't even register properly. My brain tried to fix it, like maybe one of us miscounted. But no, 4 blue folding camping chairs. That's what we packed. The 5th one was faded red. Old. The fabric on the armrest was torn and hanging loose. It looked sun-bleached, like it had been outside for years. Mark stood up first. He walked around it slowly, shining his flashlight down at the ground. "No way that was here before," he said. It wasn't just a chair. It was where it was placed, slightly back from the fire, just outside the full circle of light, like someone wanted to sit close enough to hear us, but not close enough to be seen clearly. We searched the area, flashlights cutting through trees. We walked maybe 50 yards out in every direction. No tents, no coolers, no footprints we could make out in the rocky dirt, no snapping twigs, no voices, just wind sliding through pine needles. We should have packed up. That's the part that still bothers me. Every instinct I learned from my dad said leave. Instead, we laughed it off. "Probably some old camper stash," Dylan said. We left the chair there. Around 3 a.m., I woke up with that dry mouth feeling whiskey gives you. I had to pee. The fire outside was long dead. Just a faint gray glow under ash. I unzipped the tent slowly so I wouldn't wake Haley. The cold hit first, sharp and thin. The lake was silent. No insects, no ripples, just a heavy stillness. I stepped forward and almost fell. The red chair was directly in front of our tent flap, not 5 feet from my face, facing us. I didn't breathe for a full second. It hadn't been dragged sideways. It hadn't tipped over. It was placed there, carefully, centered, like someone positioned it with intention. I stared at the dark tree line, expecting to see a silhouette. Nothing. The chair looked used, opened wider than before. The seat fabric slightly stretched down in the middle. Without thinking, and I still don't know why I did this, I reached out and touched it. The fabric was warm. Not warm like it had been sitting in the sun. warm like someone had just stood up. The air was in the low 40s. My breath was visible. Everything else felt cold and damp. I whispered Mark's name. No answer. I walked fast to his tent and shook it. He groaned from inside. Dylan too, both clearly asleep. There was no sound of anyone running. No footsteps fading away. Just that deep, crushing silence. I didn't sleep again. I sat inside the tent, watching the zipper door like it might move. At some point near dawn, I must have drifted off for a few minutes. When I stepped outside after sunrise, the chair was gone. Not moved back to the fire. Not tossed into the trees. Gone. We searched again. Harder this time. Spread out. Circled the lake. Nothing. No drag marks. No fabric scraps. No sign it had ever existed. If it weren't for the way Haley wouldn't look at me, I might have convinced myself I imagined it. We packed up without saying much. The hike back felt longer than 6 miles. I kept having this strange feeling like we were being followed. Not closely, just at the edge of sight. Every time I turned around, the trees looked normal. Too normal. When we reached the trailhead parking lot, the relief hit all of us at once. Civilization. Asphalt. Other cars. Then I saw it. On the rear door handle of my car, caught in the metal seam, was a single thread. Faded red. Thin. Frayed. The exact color of that chair. I didn't say anything right away. I just stared at it. The parking lot was empty except for our vehicles. No one standing nearby. No one watching. Haley saw it too. I could tell by the way her face drained. I pulled the thread free. It was warm. That was the worst part. We never found out where that chair came from. There were no reports of missing campers in the area. No abandoned gear logged by the Park Service. I still go camping. I still love Montana. I still believe most fears have logical explanations. But I don't camp near that lake. And sometimes, when I'm sitting around a fire at night, I count the chairs. Once, twice, 3 times. Because every now and then, just for a second, I swear I see something sitting slightly outside the circle of light. Not moving, just watching, waiting for someone to notice the extra chair again. Story 2. I don't scare easily. My older brother, Daniel, used to say that like it was a compliment. You've got a dead battery where your fear should be. He'd laugh. That was before Olympic National Park. We drove up there in late September, when the air in Washington turns sharp and the trees feel taller than they should. Olympic is different from other parks. The rainforest there doesn't just grow, it crowds you. Moss hangs from branches like old curtains. The ground is soft and damp. Every sound feels swallowed. We checked in around 4 p.m. The ranger handed us a map and circled our spot, Site 11. He didn't say anything unusual. No warnings. No weird looks. Site 12 was right next to us. Empty. No fire ring. No tent pad. Just a slightly uneven patch of earth near the tree line. It looked unused, but not abandoned. We didn't think much of it. By sunset, the forest had gone almost black. Not dark black. The trees blocked what little sky there was. Our fire was the only warm thing in that damp, breathing wilderness. At around 10 p.m., we heard it. A woman laughing. Soft, light, almost playful. It floated through the trees like it didn't belong to anything solid. Daniel looked up first. Someone showed up late, he said. That made sense. Campers arrive after dark sometimes. Maybe they were setting up quietly. The laugh came again. Closer. It wasn't the loud, echoing kind. It was intimate, like she was standing just beyond the firelight, amused at something we couldn't see. I stood up and walked towards Site 12. Empty. No headlights cutting through the trees. No engine ticking as it cooled. No lantern glow. Just darkness and that patch of earth where a tent might go. The laugh came from behind the empty site, from the tree line. It stopped abruptly, like someone pressing mute. I went back to the fire. Probably kids messing around, Daniel said, or someone hiking through. Hiking through at 10 p.m. in that forest didn't sit right with me, but I let it go. We talked, let the fire burn low, and eventually crawled into our tent. Around 11:30, I had to use the restroom. The campground bathroom was a short walk down the gravel path. As I stepped out, the night felt thicker, quieter. I passed Site 12 and froze. There was a tent there, small, beige, dome style. It hadn't been there earlier. I would have seen it. We had clear sight lines from our fire. There was no car in the parking spot, no cooler, no folding chairs, no boots outside, just the tent, perfectly centered on the dirt, zipped shut. My stomach tightened. Then the laughing stopped. I hadn't realized it had been going on again, faint in the background, until it wasn't. Instead, I heard whispering, two voices, low, sharp, arguing. It sounded like a couple fighting under their breath. Fast, tense murmurs. The kind of fight where you don't want anyone to hear. I took a step closer. Hello. I called out. The whispering cut off instantly. The forest went silent. Even the insects stopped. I don't know why I did it, but I leaned closer to the tent. The fabric was thin. I should have seen shadows. Shapes. Movement. There was nothing. No sleeping bags. No backpacks. No bodies. The grass inside was flattened, yes, but empty. Completely empty. I stared for at least 10 seconds, trying to make sense of it. Then I heard the zipper. A slow, deliberate sound. Ziz-zip. From the inside. The zipper moved down about 2 inches. Just enough to create a small opening. I stumbled back so fast my heel caught on a rock. Through that narrow gap, I saw an eye. Wide. Unblinking. Too still. The skin around it looked pale, not white, not sickly, just colorless. Like wax. The eye didn't move the way human eyes do. It didn't adjust. It didn't blink. Then the corner of a mouth appeared in the gap. Stretching. Smiling. Too wide. The skin pulled tight at the edges, like it wasn't used to making that shape. I didn't wait for more. I ran. I ran back to Site 11 so fast I nearly tore through her tent. Daniel bolted upright when I came crashing in. There's someone in that tent, I whispered, but there's no one in it. He stared at me. What does that even mean? I made him come with me. He grabbed the flashlight and a camping knife. We walked back to Site 12 together. My hand was shaking. Daniel swung the flashlight beam across the clearing. There was no tent, no marks on the ground, no flattened grass, no zipper, nothing. The dirt looked untouched, like no one had stepped there in weeks. I felt dizzy. You're messing with me, Daniel said, but his voice wasn't steady. I saw it, I said. She looked at me. We didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that smile stretching wider. In the morning, we packed early. Before leaving, Daniel stopped at the ranger station. Did someone check into Site 12 last night? He asked casually. The ranger frowned. Site 12, he repeated. That site's closed. Closed. Flood damage. River shifted 2 years ago. Ground's unstable. We don't allow campers there. My throat went dry. No one could have set up a tent there. Daniel asked. The ranger shook his head. Not legally. And I'd see headlights from my cabin. We didn't tell him. What would we say? As we drove out of the campground, I told myself not to look back. I looked anyway, just once. Between the trees, deep in the rainforest, I saw beige fabric, a small dome tent, and beside it stood a woman, too tall. Her arms hung a little too long at her sides. Her head tilted slightly, like she was studying us. Even from that distance, I could see her smile. Wide, unblinking, watching us leave. And just before the trees swallowed her, I saw something that still wakes me up at night. Behind her, through the tent's thin fabric, I could see shapes moving inside, like more people, or more of her, waiting for someone else to wander past Site 12. Story 3. I've always liked being alone in the woods. Not because I hate people. Not because I'm running from anything dramatic. The woods just make sense to me. Trees don't lie. Wind doesn't pretend. Out there, everything is what it is. That's why I drove down to the Ozarks that weekend. Ozark National Forest had miles of quiet land, especially in early spring when the nights were still cold enough to keep casual campers at home. I found a small clearing near a dry creek bed just before sunset. The ground was mostly hard-packed dirt with scattered rock. No soft mud, no signs of recent animal tracks, just stillness. I pitched my tent facing west so I could catch the last light bleeding through the trees. By 9, the forest had settled into that deep, breathing silence you only get far from highways. No distant engines, no porch lights, just the occasional snap of cooling branches and the slow whisper of wind through oak leaves. I slept fast, and then I woke up. At first I didn't know why. My eyes opened to darkness, the thin nylon roof glowing faintly under starlight. I lay there listening. That's when I heard it. Tap. Soft. Almost polite. Then again. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from underneath me. Not from outside the tent. Not from the side. Directly below my sleeping pad. The sound traveled up through the ground, through the thin fabric, into my spine. I held my breath. Maybe rain. No. The sky had been crystal clear. Branches. No trees hung over the tent. Tap. Tap, tap. It wasn't random. It had rhythm. Like someone testing a surface. Like a fingernail tapping on plastic. I swallowed and whispered to myself, armadillo, raccoon, something small. The Ozarks had plenty of wildlife. That's what I told myself. Slowly, I reached up and clicked on my headlamp. The beam filled the tent with harsh white light. The tapping stopped instantly. The silence that followed felt heavier than the sound. I pressed my palm flat against the tent floor. Nothing, just cold nylon and the firm earth beneath it. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. My heartbeat started to slow. Then, tap, right under my hand. Not to the side, not inches away. Exactly where my palm touched. Slow, deliberate. The kind of tap you make when you know someone's on the other side. My entire body went cold. The air inside the tent felt thinner. I jerked my hand back like the ground had burned me. The tapping didn't follow. It just stopped again as if satisfied. I grabbed my knife, unzipped the tent in one fast motion, and swung my headlamp beam across the clearing. Nothing moved. The dry creek bed lay silent. The trees stood motionless. No rustling, no scurrying, no glowing animal eyes caught in the light. I circled the tent. The ground was solid. No burrow holes. No fresh dirt. The earth was too compact for anything to dig through quickly. I stood there for a full minute, listening to my own breathing fog the cold air. "You're imagining it," I muttered. "Stress, lack of sleep, forest tricks." I crawled back inside, zipped up, turned off the light, and for a while there was nothing. Then I heard it again, but not under me, behind me. Tap, tap, tap. Slow, measured, not from the ground this time, from wood. I rolled onto my side and unzipped the tent just enough to stick my head out. My light cut across the trees behind my campsite. About 20 feet away stood a thick oak. Old, broad, its bark rough and ridged like scar tissue. The tapping came from there. Tap. I locked the beam on the trunk. The sound stopped, but something else caught my eye. 3 vertical scratches carved into the bark. Fresh, pale wood showing beneath dark outer layers. I stepped out of the tent, knife in hand, heart hammering so loud it felt like it might echo. The scratches were deep, too straight to be random. I lifted the beam higher, and my stomach twisted. Another set of scratches, parallel, higher up the trunk, about 7 feet off the ground. I'm 6 feet tall, and I couldn't reach them without stretching. I stared longer than I should have, because while I was staring, tap, right behind me, not on the tree, on the ground, exactly where my tent sat. I spun around so fast I nearly lost balance. The tent looked the same, still, empty, but something about it felt wrong now, like it wasn't just fabric and poles anymore, like it had become a marker. I didn't go back inside. I sat against my car with the headlights off, knife in my lap, watching the tree line until dawn began to thin the darkness. Nothing else moved. No more tapping. When morning finally came, gray and cold, I felt stupid, exhausted, embarrassed. In daylight, everything looks harmless. I packed up quickly, rolled my sleeping bag, collapsed the poles, yanked the stakes from the ground one by one. When I lifted the tent fully away, I froze. The earth beneath where my torso had been lying was disturbed, not randomly, not like animal pawing. The dirt was clawed upward, like something from below had been trying to dig toward me. The marks formed a shallow bowl directly under where my chest and stomach had rested. There was no tunnel leading away, no entrance, no exit, just torn earth, as if whatever had been underneath realized it couldn't reach me, and stopped. I didn't take pictures. I didn't measure anything. I packed the tent into my trunk with shaking hands and drove out of the forest without looking back at the trees. I haven't camped solo since, and sometimes, late at night, when my house is quiet and I'm lying flat on my back in bed, I feel the mattress dip slightly beneath me. Then, tap, right under my spine.